Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. One of the bigger storylines in college football, DJU transferring to Florida State, heading into that 2024 year. Dill, we covered DJU coming to Florida State when he committed, but we haven't taken the time to necessarily take a deep dive into what DJU brings to Tallahassee. This is one of my more exciting quarterback transfers that we saw during the offseason. I think the potential that DJU has in this Florida State offense is extremely high. You're talking about one of the more talented and big arms across college football coming to a Florida State program where we just saw Mike Norvell have a ton of success developing a guy like Jordan Travis. Extremely excited about DJU, excited to get into what DJU brings to this Florida State offense. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys and a massive shout out to the Florida State fans. This has been a program, whether we're talking high school recruiting, transfer portal, deep dives into these position groups, the amount of support you guys continue to show to the boys, that stuff means the world. Cannot thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I know you're a massive fan of DJU and the film that you saw from him at Oregon State. I'll give you the T-box. DJU come to Tallahassee. How we feeling about it?
I mean, I still think people haven't quite caught up to where DJU is at compared to what you kind of saw at Clemson, where, again, at this point, watching Clemson for the last couple of years now, I'm not sure you can pin that much on DJU because, like, you look, Cade Klubnik's having the same issues that DJU had. That offense, just they haven't quite figured it out. They haven't gotten anything going in terms of making anything easy on quarterbacks. It seems everything's really hard. Guys are never open, it feels like. In just, I don't know, it doesn't feel conducive to quarterbacks. When you saw Jonathan Smith work with him at Oregon State, though, I mean, that's what you want to see from DJU. The average yards per pass were way up, in the ball was getting down the field. That's what DJU specialized in. When he had the opportunity to do that a little more, he was really, really good.
It was wild to watch DJU at Clemson and just have them consistently not push the ball down the field. I mean, you have a quarterback that arguably has the strongest arm in all of college football, and you're not going to let him attack the deeper third, push the football down the field. Mind-blowing for me. And then you see DJU go to Oregon State, get asked to do those type of things, and he had a ton of success. And so you talk about what DJU brings to this Florida State program. Dill, the first thing that I'm most excited about is kind of opening up the playbook in the passing game a little bit more than you saw with Jordan Travis in 2023. And this is by no means me knocking Jordan Travis. The Florida State fans have been rocking with the fellas for a long time, know how big of a fan I am of Jordan Travis. But you could tell Mike Norvell was catering to what Jordan Travis could and could not do. You take a look at some of the numbers. Jordan Travis, a 31% completion percentage, pushing the ball 20-plus yards down the field. Not necessarily the strongest arm in college football. You take a look at DJU at Oregon State, a 43% completion percentage, pushing the ball 20-plus yards down the field and had an average depth of target of 12 yards compared to Jordan Travis's 10. And so the first thing that I am waiting and kind of excited to see DJU in Tallahassee is you're going to see this playbook open up. You're going to see Mike Norvell in this Florida State offense push the ball down the field a little bit more. You could see they want to with the wide receivers they brought in the transfer portal, guys like Jaylen Brown, Malik Benson. That's the first thing that excites me the most is just being a little bit more aggressive, pushing the ball down the field with some plays that you probably couldn't run as much with Jordan Travis in 2023.
And again, to go like that's where DJU's at his best because at Clemson, when you're right, ask him to throw a lot of screens, a lot of underneath stuff, a lot of stuff into the middle. Like that's not where he really thrives. When he was getting the ball, especially outside the numbers on some of those deep outs, looked really, really good, looked really, really comfortable and was accurate. When he was getting the ball down the field vertically, really, really good last year too. That's where he thrives. Again, I think Florida State will probably have as much talent around him as he's seen in his college career because they had good wide receivers at Oregon State. Won't want to take anything away from them, but they don't have the like Hakeem Williams type guys or a Malik Benson type guy who can really, really burn it. I mean, I'm really excited. I'm just kind of interested to see what him and Mike Norvell can do.
You noted something that I have in my notes should have brought up. You talk about opening up the playbook. You look at all the best offenses in the country. I think what makes those offenses great is they have the ability to really attack the defense with every single blade of grass on the football field. You look at Florida State's offense at times in 2023, kind of condensed to that middle of the field, right? Jordan Travis was not great going out to the boundary with some of those throws. That's where DJU had a ton of success at Oregon State. And so what I'm most excited for is the spacing. Not only are you going to be able to hit some more explosive plays down the field, I think, but more importantly, you're going to force defenses to really not be able to just crunch the middle of the field. And DJU is going to challenge defenses to cover all those blades of grass. And what does that do? It opens stuff up underneath for guys to work after the catch. If you have two safeties that need to respect those boundaries and those deeper thirds, I think you're going to see a little bit more space from this Florida State offense to operate in than you saw in 2023. The next thing that kind of fires me up a little bit is what they can do on those third and short situations. That was really the kryptonite of Florida State last year. You take a look at the numbers. I mean, Florida State completed or converted 36% of their third downs. That was 88th in the country. We're talking about an undefeated conference championship team that was 88th in third down conversion. What does DJU really specialize in? What did Oregon State use him in a big way is being that battering ram, right? You saw Florida State struggle in those 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1 situations. Those are big plays. They're not necessarily the plays that make the highlights, but those are extremely important. You go back to the Duke game where Florida State struggled in and things got hairy at home. I think DJU is going to allow Florida State to get a little bit more creative in terms of what they're going to do on those third and short situations. And I think that's something that not a lot of people are talking about, but could massively help this Noles offense going into next year.
And then even as you expand that out, what he can do in the running game, just being a little more physical. I think that was one thing you kind of looked at. Florida State just didn't have a big-time physical ground game. They didn't really run it that great up the middle. Or in between the tackles. I shouldn't say up the middle, but in between the tackles, that's not where they were thriving. Again, DJU offers you another body that you can really give it to. I mean, he can probably take 10 to 20 carries pretty easily a game. Big physical runner. And I think, again, that's one thing you really Florida State had a great offense. No one would really complain about much, but I think you want to see a little more physicality. I think that would help open things up a little bit. I think him and Mike Norvell and how creative Mike Norvell can get in the run game, I think that's kind of interesting to look at because, again, I think he can take a lot of carries. I think he can take them inside and be physical and, again, just try to get something up there.
You saw them. Jordan Travis had the capability, or he was a phenomenal athlete in space. They're different kind of runners, but you saw Florida State not necessarily want to lean on Jordan Travis's legs because they wanted to keep him healthy. DJU's a guy that you're worried about the linebacker's health. That's trying to tackle DJU, not DJU. He is 6'4", 250 pounds. You listen to the interviews. He loves running the football. He loves putting his shoulder down. He averaged almost 2.7 yards after contact per carry last year, ran for 31 first downs. You talk about kind of establishing that physical run game. I think you got a quarterback that can certainly help you do that with an offensive line that I think hopefully stays healthy in 2024. I think you're going to see that run game get a little bit more effective. And Dill, that kind of leads us to our third talking point. And that is, if you do see Florida State run the football very well in 2024, that's going to be massive for DJ because you look at when he struggled, it was with not very much of a run game. And then in turn, not very much effective play action. You go back to DJU's film against Oregon State. What made them have so much success is they were hammering the football with Damian Martinez, working play action, and DJ is absolutely nails with play action. If Florida State can get that run game going, let DJU kind of lean on that play action, you're looking at, I think, kind of the ceiling of what DJU can do in this Noles offense.
And when they let him roll out at Oregon State, that was you saw some real flashes there. Again, being able to push the ball, not just roll out and dump it into the flats, but be able to take your shots downfield and do some of those things. Again, it kind of unlocks some of those weapons that Florida State has. That will be an interesting thing because, again, Florida State didn't run the ball great last year. If they can run it well and then let him work on that play action, I think that's just one thing you're kind of looking for because it's a bit of an unknown, frankly, at this point of how well they can establish the run. But if they can, again, that really did help DJU compared to what he had at Clemson, where you're right. They didn't run a lot of play action. They didn't really move the pocket a whole lot. When he was at Oregon State and they let him do some of that stuff, that did, I think,
DJU went 37% of his dropbacks at Oregon State were play action. He completed almost 65% of his footballs there. He was really good on play action. Dill, the one thing, and this is kind of like a double-edged sword. It's the one thing DJU needs to work on, but also what I'm excited about him going to Florida State, and I think a large part of why he comes to Florida State is cleaning up the consistency of his game. Like, you go back and watch the Oregon State film, you see him throw a 30-yard absolute dot on a rope. Then the next play, he misses a check down badly. And it's like the inconsistencies in his game going back to his time at Clemson have always kind of been his Achilles heel. Know who else struggled with that at times was Jordan Travis. And year after year, Jordan Travis got better with that under the tutelage of Mike Norvell. I think that's part of the reason DJU comes to Florida State and to work with Mike Norvell. If he can clean up the consistency and have that ability to, hey, where I'm not going to miss those throws that I should be making, I think that is massive for DJU's development, but also this Florida State offense, because that's really the one thing you want to see him clean up. You get that completion percentage from 58% to 65%. I mean, you're looking at one of the top quarterbacks in the ACC, and there's no doubt in my mind.
And that's like, you don't want to see Mike Norvell's offense kind of lose that ability, because that's what made it so tough to defend with Jordan Travis, is he just didn't really miss throws in that short intermediate sort of game. Very good, very on time, really it kind of made what he had to, or did what he had to do in those moments. Again, Mike Norvell's offense does utilize that to an extent, and I don't think you want to see that kind of fall by the wayside with DJU. And again, that will be what I think Mike Norvell's project is. And Mike Norvell and this offensive project, let's say, it will be, can DJU be more consistent? Because at the end of the day, 58% is not a extremely high completion percentage.
Oh, you want to clean that up. And that's like what I'm so fired up about is I think everybody remembers that nobody was talking about Oregon State and DJU last year in 2023. Like, they were up playing in Corvallis, 10 o'clock Eastern time, not many eyeballs on what DJU was doing. You go back, turn on the film. We were watching a lot of Oregon State football last year. Like, he was really good. And so I think that a lot of college football fans have this preconceived notion of, all right, the DJU and Clemson coming to Florida State. All right, good luck with that, guys. I think he's a different quarterback. I think he's going to continue to get better under Mike Norvell. Again, the track record with what he did at Jordan Travis, or with Jordan Travis, extremely exciting. I am very excited for this fit, this partnership, and kind of optimistic about what this Florida State offense looks like with DJU in the 2024 year. This is going to be a storyline. The boys are breaking down all spring practice, reading the spring practice notes, talking about what we're hearing. Excited to do it. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.